Hi everyone, it's Scotty at Sound Attack, the famous drum shop in the UK. We're really honoured to show you first the Roland TM-2 module that everyone's been talking about. It's the amazing new add-on that you can add onto an acoustic kit. Basically, I wanted to add on like a sub drop for ages onto my kit, but having to spend a fortune on a new electronic kit means that it's an expensive thing to do. Now you can get this little TM-2 module, which is this big, and you can add any sound you want to your acoustic kit, so you don't have to spend a lot of money. It's run with triggers, and Jules from Roland is here, and he will guide you through everything and show you what this thing can do.
Hey guys, my name's Jules and I'm from Roland. I'm the guy that looks after all the drums and V-drum stuff for Roland in the UK. It gives me great pleasure to be here with Sound Attack today to give you a little bit of an exclusive look at the TM-2. TM-2 we just announced at NAMM this year, and TM-2 is a trigger module. What's a trigger module? Well, basically it's a really small compact drum module that's got sounds in it. You can also put your own sounds in, and then you can play the sounds from inside the trigger module, either by adding pads to it or by adding triggers to your kit, and I'll explain a bit more about that later. Adding electronics to an acoustic drum kit is what we call hybrid, bringing the two together and then using them to kind of increase the amount of sounds that you've got available to you in your kit. That's what hybrid is all about. So to go hybrid, before we introduced the TM-2, you needed to use your drum module, so your V-drums module from your kit, or an SPD-SX sampling pad, or maybe the Octapad SPD-30 percussion pad. Build that into your kit to be able to add extra sounds to your kit. But with the TM-2, we introduced it because we needed a really small, compact module for drummers to be able to use to put into their kit. And also, we needed something that was very simple and very easy to use, because if you haven't used electronics before, I think people can generally be a bit worried out there that it's quite difficult to use. So the TM-2 is purposefully very easy to use and very, very simple. The other thing to think about before we take a look at the TM-2 is why you would want to go hybrid. Why would you want to build some electronics into your acoustic kit? What can it do for you? So basically, it can do a few things for you. If you just want some extra sounds to add to your kit, so maybe if you want cowbells for one song, and then the next song you want a sub drop, and then the next song you want some extra cymbals or a second snare or something like that. Normally, without adding electronics to it, you'd have to actually take those instruments to the gig with you and have loads of different things set up around the kit. With electronics, you can literally hit a pad, and whatever sound is assigned to that pad will play out. So it means that you can 1 minute have tambourines and the next minute have shakers or whatever you need. You've got loads of instruments on tap ready to expand your kit. The other thing that you can do is you can connect a drum trigger to your acoustic kit. I've got them connected to the bass drum, the toms and the snare drum. What that means is every time I play my acoustic drum, the trigger is going to send a message to the module, in this case the TM-2, and that's going to play another sound. So I've got two sounds. I've got my acoustic sound and I've got a sound from the module. So say that you wanted your acoustic snare drum, but maybe like a dance, dubsteppy kind of sound over the top, you can layer the two together. Or the other thing that you can do is you can take your own drum sounds, put them into the TM-2, and when you hit your acoustic drum, the trigger will pick that up and it'll play your own drum sounds out through the module. So it means that you can have a good drum sound every gig. Even if there's no mics on the kit at the gig, you can make sure that your kit is really clear, pronounced, and you're using whatever sounds that you need. Great, so let's take a closer look at the TM-2 itself. So here we've got a really compact, small module. It's just connected via a multi-clamp to a cymbal stand, so already it's not taking much space in your kit and you haven't got loads of wires kind of trailing everywhere. This thing has got over 100 sounds inside it, and it's got kick drum sounds, snare drum sounds, tom sounds, percussion sounds, etc., all of which are really faithful samples. And it's got some clever stuff which I'll kind of go into detail about in a minute. The great thing with this is that if you've got an SD card, you can put on this your own sample. So say that you went into the studio with your band, you recorded your acoustic drum kit, you can take the kick, the snare, the hats, the toms, whatever you want, just put them on your SD card as WAV files, and then you literally pop this inside the TM-2, and then we're ready to play your sounds through the TM-2 if you want to. The other thing about the TM-2 is you can either run it off of a power supply or on AA batteries. What we do with this is we need to connect to it some triggers. So triggers come in a few different forms. A trigger could just be a pad, so you could use like the BT1 bar pad that we've got here, or if you've already got a V-Drums kit, you could just use one of the mesh pads, etc., and mount that off a tom bracket or something like that, so you can maybe use it as a second snare. So we can put 2 pads in here if we want to, or we could add to that some acoustic drum triggers. So these triggers here actually are connected to the kick drum, the tom and the snare drum in this kit, and what that means is when I play my acoustic drum, this trigger is going to pick up a signal and it's going to send that to the TM-2. So every time I play the snare, it will play a sound from the TM-2 as well. So there's 2 things that we can do. Just add some pads to the kit and just have some extra sounds, or we can add triggers to the kit and we can trigger sounds from the TM-2 as well. We've got 2 inputs, but you can either use what we call 2 dual inputs. That means that if you've got a pad connected, like a mesh pad, you can play one sound on the head and another sound on the rim, and I'll demo that for you in a little bit. Or you can connect 4 mono pads, so it just means that you've got 4 individual pads, and every time you hit that pad, it'll only ever play one sound. So in the case of this setup I've got here right now, I've got 4 things connected. I've got a kick trigger, a snare trigger, a tom trigger, and then this BT1 pad connected to it, all going into these 2 inputs as well. We've got a headphone out here so that you can hear at the gig what's coming through the TM-2, and then we've also got 2 outputs, left and right, which will go to like the PA system or the front of house or something like that. So let's have a look at some of the sounds inside. So what I've got here at the minute is I've got a kit and I've got my triggers connected. So the sound inside sounds like this. That's a kick drum sound, and this is a snare drum sound. I was just pressing the preview buttons there to hear the sound coming out. But I've got my triggers connected, so what that means is every time I hit the snare drum or every time I hit the kick drum, it's going to play those sounds with it as well. So what I'm going to get now is I'm going to get my acoustic sound, but let's just say I can't take any microphones to the gig. That means that my drum sound is compromised. I've got to compete with the guitars and the keys and all that kind of stuff going on. So what you could do is you could trigger some sounds from the module just to kind of enhance your sound, so you'll get the acoustic sound and the sound from the TM-2 over the top. So let's hear what it sounds like. I'm going to turn this off, and this is just the acoustic kick. Now let's turn the TM-2 up and hear what that sounds like with it on. Really fattens up that sound. Let's try it with the snare drum. That's with the TM-2 off. Turn it on. So we're getting the 2 sounds layered over the top of each other. So that's just the first kit inside this TM-2 module. We've got a load of preset kits in here that you can use straight off the bat to get going, but you can also create your own kits. We've got 100 in here, so it means that different songs in the set, you can have different kits set up. So let's just take another look at a couple of the kits in here. I've got a kit here called Hip Hop, for example. So this is what the kick drum sounds like, and this is the sound on the snare drum, kind of a wood block, and the sound on the tom. We've got an additional sound here, just an 808 cowbell. So with the acoustic kit, it sounds like this. I've also got in here something called a soul kit. And what I'm doing here is I'm taking this small bebop kit that I've got going on here, taking my acoustic sound, but I'm adding these sounds over the top. So this is what I got on the kick. Really nice, open, reverby sound going on the snare. Really nice poppy snare drum. And just a rim click sound going on there as well. Again, I can take my standard kit here, which just sounds like this. Turn the TM-2 up, and I get 2 sounds together for a real cool soul sound. Okay, so we've taken a look there at a couple of other kits. What about if I want to play my own sounds? And I've got some of my own drum sounds from my own kit here on an SD card. So I've imported these into the TM-2, and I'm going to play them with the kit now. So this is what they sound like. Just the kick drum. That's my own kick. I recorded it in the studio. My own snare. My tom. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to make this small kit with an 18-inch kick drum, and I'm going to make it kind of sound much more like my own kit. There you go. So I've basically just played my own kit and taken that to the gig with me. There's something else that you can do as well, and that's you can enhance your kick sound. So let's just say that I don't want to replace or layer other sounds over the top, but you do want a really solid drum sound at every gig. Well, inside the TM-2, we've got what we call element sounds. So it's just like one part of the drum sound. It's not the full tone of the drum. It's just maybe like the ring and the overtone, or maybe just the low-end thud or something of a kick drum. So we've got those element sounds in here, and we're taking the acoustic sound, so you'll get that naturally in the room. It'll just play out, you don't need any mics, but we're adding maybe some low end to it or a little bit of snaring or something just to fatten the sound up. So let's just give you an idea of what that would sound like. So here, for example, we've just got kind of a low end bass drum, and on the snare, this is actually a wood snare drum here, and we've got a brass overtone ring that we can bring to that to really bring the drum to life. And on the tom, we've just got a little bit of attack there. So these are just the element sounds. The kit on its own. And if I turn the TM-2 up, so there you can really fatten up your drum sound at every gig. We had the kit set up with triggers a second ago, but let me show you another way that you can use the TM-2 as well. We've got here just the BT1 trigger pad and a mesh pad from a V-Drums kit here. So we've just got two pads connected to the TM-2, and that's just giving me some extra sounds. So you can play a nice little groove. And you can just have some extra sounds in your kit. And there's a lot of pre-configured kits in here that you can just plug in your pads and get going straight away. But you can obviously set up your own as well. So here's a couple that I set up that I liked. So I've got like a second snare drum going on here. A splash cymbal there. So I've just added an extra cymbal to my kit. So just some extra sounds to play there. A couple of cowbells. So you can just expand your kit by adding a TM-2 and a couple of trigger pads, mount them in your kit, and your hybrid ready to go. So last thing to tell you about the TM-2 is this has got an inbuilt effects engine as well. So basically you can take a sound that's inside the TM-2 or your own sound, and you can add to that an effect. So you can kind of, change the sound or vary the sound as well. Let me just show you that really quickly. So here, for example, I've got my snare drum. I can go in here, there's the snare drum, and I can choose an effect. So I'm going to go and switch that on. And I'm going to choose the effect that I want. So here I've got delay. Here's tape echo. Phases. We could try wah-wah. And distortion. We've got a whole load of different effects in here, so you can add that effect to any sound, whether you're using a trigger or whether you're using a pad, you can add one of those effects. So there we have it, that's the TM-2. That's a first look with Sound Attack. The product is arriving in April of this year, so pretty soon you'll be able to get your hands on one, I'm sure. Thanks for watching, guys. See you soon.